actually. Our first speaker is Joon Lee. Joon has taught in a variety of, or he's taught a variety of students in ESL and EFL communities, from kindergarten to university students and even business professionals. He's held positions as an academic director, a content and curriculum designer, and academic advisor for his in his nearly 20 years here in Asia. And he's going to speak today on a topic called self-directed professional development. So Joon, if you want to pop on your camera and mic, I'll go ahead and hand the audience over to you.
Great, Josh. Just want to make sure my video and audio are working. If you can see and hear me, can you please just say hello, Joon, in the chat box? I want to make sure that everyone is able to hear and see myself in the video and audio. Good, great. Thank you, everyone. It is great. Oh, excellent. I can see those responses coming in now. Hello, 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 everyone. It is great to be here, and I'm very, very excited to be kicking off our day 2 of our ELTOC event. As Josh mentioned, I am joining our session today from Seoul, South Korea. It's great to see so many people from other parts of the country. I've been reading the chat box since the beginning of our start, and I can see there are multiple countries here. I see some Mexico's, Peru's, Argentina's. I saw Asian members from Thailand, Vietnam. I saw a Turkey member. I believe there were some people from Myanmar as well. Colombia, perfect. So I am very, very excited to be here today. I do want to give everyone a heads up. In Korea recently, our weather has been a little bit fickle. It was warm for a little bit and then it turned very cold again. So unfortunately, I have caught a cold. I do have my tissue and my warm tea with me, but please do bear with me. I may need to cough a little bit or I sound a little bit congested, but please bear with me. I will make sure that our time is well spent and we are able to get through our content very, very clearly. So if you notice our topic session for today, I will be talking about self-directed professional development in practice. Now, if you were able to join us for our first day, another speaker, Chris Farrell, he was able to speak about professional development or self-directed professional development as a whole and a pedagogical approach. So these are similar in topics, but our approach is going to be slightly different. Yes, I will still go over briefly the key points and objectives of self-directed professional development or self-directed PD, but my focus is going to be more on how can our teachers get started and create their own professional development journey and pathway. We're going to take the ideas of self-directed PD and put it into application. So I will be showing different types of PD activities, different resources that are available for you, but our focus is to really focus on getting that structure. What can teachers really do to get started on this journey of self-directed PD? Now, before we do start, there are 3 things that I would like to ask of all of our participants and educators today. The first is there is a downloadable PDF. There is a resource that Josh mentioned earlier. You can download this directly. If you're on your personal laptop, you can download it directly to our session now. It's in the handouts section of our tabs. And this is a PDF that is editable, meaning that if you have the opportunity, like I am right now, I have 2 different screens. If it's easy for you to be able to watch our conference and also take notes in the editable PDF, that would be great. Now, if you do not want to do that, that is totally fine. You can download it anyways and look at it later. I will be referring to this document in the middle of our session. So I will explain this over to you again. Do not worry about that. But it is there for you to take advantage during our session or to do it afterwards. Now, for those of us joining on mobile, you can still download the document onto your mobile device. But since our mobiles are a little bit smaller, I recommend just focusing on our session and our blocks today and using that file later on when you're doing the activities by yourself or as a follow-up activity. So that is my first request from our audience. My second request is the chat box. And yes, I can see that all of our teachers have already discovered where our chat box is. There are going to be multiple opportunities for all of our teachers to share and express their ideas, opinions, questions, and thoughts. So please make sure that your typing fingers are all warmed up so you can get your questions, comments, and responses in the chat box today too. Now, my third one, I know there's a lot to ask for you. The third one's actually the most easiest. This is going to be the polls. I am going to have about 3 or 4 polls sprinkled into our session today. So when the poll does pop up, you can just click on the answer. It will automatically generate your response. Of course, it's anonymous. And then we're going to be able to share those responses together in our room today. So those are the 3 things that I'm asking for all of our teacher supports for our session. Hopefully, that will be okay with everyone. Now, speaking of polls, let me go ahead and jump right into our first poll. The first poll question I would like to ask everyone is, are you familiar with the concept of self-directed professional development? Hopefully you can see the poll pop up in front of you now. The question is, are you familiar with the concept of self-directed professional development? Please be honest. It's yes, no, or not sure. I'll give everyone a few moments to answer their poll responses. Great. And hopefully you can see that there is a live response in front of us. And you can see that it looks pretty split across the way. We have a lot of yeses. We have 42%. Oh, changing 41%. Of course, this is live, so it's going to be fluctuating up and down. So a majority of our teachers have said 41% as yes. Some of our teachers have had said no, which is no problem. And then almost the same amount as yeses, we have the not sures. And this is actually a great starting point because I love this mixture of responses because first, those teachers who are familiar with self-directed PD can definitely help me and share their experiences and ideas of how self-directed PD worked for them or how they're using it now. For those who are not sure or unfamiliar with the concept, this is going to be a great session for you to have more awareness about this topic and try to get that initial first step of getting and creating your own professional development journey. So thank you for answering question number 1. I'm going to ask question number 2 now. Here is poll question number 2. What method do you prefer to participate in or to access information? I'll read it one more time. What method do you prefer to participate in or to access information? Now, hopefully, you can see that there are 5 different options, and one, of course, being other. But this question is trying to focus on, in your personal experience, your personal opinion, your preferred choice, which of these 5 answers would you like to participate or gather information with? Great. And I can see that we have in front of us our responses. You can see it's slowly changing. And I really like this response choices because it really represents what you are looking for and what you are bringing into your own ways of finding information. So I'm going to give a few more moments to let everyone get their answers in before we discuss our results. Great, great. So I know, Dennis, I know there are some teachers who would like to choose between two, but I am a very, very strict presenter. And we want to make sure that for this context, we're going to make sure we ask for your most favorable choice. I do understand that many of these options do sound great, but I'm going to be a little bit mean and ask for only one of your responses. Thank you. Now, as you can see, with this live response, a majority of our teachers and educators today have responded with, oh, I'm sorry, can we please go back to that again? Okay, great, thank you. So a majority of our teachers actually responded with online webinars and conferences. Many of our teachers in seconds have responded with face-to-face events. And we also have options for teachers that um, like the third and fourth choices, researching papers and online blogs, collaborating with a team member or colleague, and we do have 3% saying other. Now, the reason why I brought this up is I want to make sure that we understand that each individual educator has their own reason, purposes, and explanation of why they chose these topics and why these answers are going to be their more favorable choice. Now, for question number 3, our question number 3 is going to be a continuation of question number 2. Now, this is not going to be a poll. For question number 3, I'm going to be asking you to type in your answers in the chat box. Now, question number 3 asks us, looking at your answer in question number 2, why does this choice suit you the best? So I put our answer choices in front of us again. So in our chat box, can you just please tell us and explain to us briefly, why did you choose your answer? If you chose B, please put down B because and give us a short reply. If you prefer online webinars and conferences, please put A because and type your answers in the chat box, please. I'll give everyone a few extra moments. This is a little bit of extra time, especially with the people on mobile. So I'll give everyone a few moments to get their answers in. But it's very important that we share our answers because we want to make sure we have a reason behind the selections that you've made. Well, I can see some great answers popping up. Fernando, teacher, thank you. He went well beyond the shorter response, but did give a great response of why his selection choice was made. We have teachers who have responded with like less expensive, maybe online webinars and conferences. You don't actually have to travel, and this is actually a great point. There's no travel cost, especially if it's in a different country or if it's an international conference. Excellent point. Violetta has mentioned because of the time, maybe because online webinars are easier to access, maybe it matches your local time better than other events would be too. And there are a lot of other great answers to it too. Flavia has stated C, reading research papers and online blogs because they can do it on my own time. Excellent. These are great, great responses. We have human interactions, flexibility, time, easier to participate in, more comfortable, engaging, easy to take part all over the world. These are great, great responses. And I think it's important. The reason why we talk about this is because all of our educators have different reasons and situations that are going to dictate or choose or help select their different selection pathway through their professional development journey itself. And that is where we want to be discussing. This is what we're going to be talking about. We want to recognize that self-directed professional development is going to be different and unique to everyone else. And we're going to start off by talking about some basic definitions and background information about it. We are then going to take a look at a suggested framework for you to create your own self-directed PD journey. And of course, it's not going to be the same for everyone else, but this framework is one of many frameworks that you can use, but we want to suggest this one because it really allows you to build up and see this process step by step. So we're going to take a brief overview of the self-directed PD journey itself, and then we're going to take a closer look at each of the 7 steps. Now, at the very end of our session, we want to make sure that all of our teachers are feel comfortable with the idea of self-directed PD. We're going to be showing different resources and different types of reflection of how you can get this journey started for you. Or even if you are already on this journey, what you can do to help support more successful results, or going back and adding different details and directives or objectives or smaller goals that you want to achieve. So let's go ahead and jump right into the self-directed professional development explained. And I can see that all of our chat box is still moving, so that's great. Keep that energy up and get those responses in. Now, I think it's very important that we understand the differences and similarities between professional development and self-directed PD. Now, what do these terms mean? Now, in our earlier session, yesterday in day 1, Chris Farrell did a great job of talking about self-directed PD as a pedagogy, as a methodology for us to practice. And I don't want to go over all that information, but I do want to highlight some of the main key points that are going to be impacting our session today. So, with professional development, the definition is actually quite easy, but it's kind of broad at the same time. Professional development is various forms of specialized training or education to improve professional knowledge and competences. And this actually works with any skill. It's not just for ELT. Of course, we're focusing on language and English teaching, but you can have professional development in any field that you choose to work with. So the idea of professional development is just any specialized training or education designed to help your professional knowledge in that field and building up those skills. Now, what does that actually look like? Now, for language educators and teachers and advisors all around the world, one way that this actually can happen is that facilitated courses for educators can be offered within a school or institution that you are working at. I used to work at a public school and a private school, a private language school, and part of my tasks as a teacher and educator there was to participate in their monthly, bi-monthly, annual training sessions. And this was offered at the school itself and at the Language Institute. Now, this can be done within the school, or they can hire a freelancer or another group of language educators to come into their school and do these types of PD trainings and workshops with their teachers. Now, once again, these types of trainings have a very, very wide variety of services. And this is what we're going to look at a little bit later. But there are many, many different types of PD activities and exercises that you can do for professional development courses and your own learning journey. Now, there is a specific word that we use in ELT. It's called prescribed activities. Now, prescribed activities are the mandatory activities your school or institution will put on their educators. As I mentioned earlier, in my previous teaching experiences, my teacher and my academic advisor said you have to attend these learning workshops. It's part of your contract. It's part of your responsibilities as a teacher. You must go to these sessions. And these are called prescribed activities. Now, all of this information falls underneath what professional development typically looks like in the ELT field. Now, how does this differ? How is this different from self-directed professional development? Now, self-directed professional development is when, and I underline this to make it pop out more, it's when the teacher intentionally selects activities to engage with in order to examine, extend, or perhaps improve their own professional practice. Now, the key part here is that the teachers are choosing this activity to do for their personal growth and professional development journey itself. It is your active choice, your power to make a decision that you want to attend this and you want to participate with it. Now, what does this look like? Please keep in mind, self-directed PD is a form of professional development. I saw earlier in a couple of sessions before, people were confused. Is PD the same thing as self-directed PD? Think of it as like two circles, and self-directed PD is a part of professional development courses itself to it too. But the biggest difference is that teachers control and take ownership of their professional development journey. They choose what they want to do. They look at their own needs, their own skills, their strengths and weaknesses, and choose on their own how they're going to address and build upon these skills, expand their knowledge, and improve their teaching abilities. Now, this is framed around the ideas that teachers have personal circumstances and individual motivations. You may be working at a school or a language institution with 20 different teachers, and you may all be teaching primary or secondary or high school students, but each individual teacher has their own circumstances, their own situations, and their own individual motivations to be active in this self-directed PD journey itself. So we want to take a look at the self-directed PD and see why this actually benefits all of our educators. And there are 5 major benefits that we can focus on. Now, of course, there may be some other benefits that we don't mention in this session, but these are the major 5 that we can actually see impacting a large majority of our teachers. And the first one is relevance. Relevance is how relevant or how does this training match my needs? And to be honest, with self-directed PD, it is highly relevant because you are choosing the topic of interest. You are controlling what you want to participate in. And of course, this considers, like we said earlier, your own individual experiences, your own strengths and weaknesses, your opinions and approaches on different learning methods, your own personal goals. And this can be as a teacher or maybe even as a career. At my school, if I want to become a manager, I need to make sure that I follow in these types of different courses and get more knowledge on it. So this relevance is actually very, very important. One of our key benefits of self-directed PD is because all the options you choose are relevant because you are choosing them yourself. Now, the second part is practicality. And with practicality, we mentioned this earlier with all of our teachers. I asked you, why did you choose this option? Why did you choose research papers? Why did you choose online conferences? And this is going to be based on the practicality of flexibility. Scheduling can actually be fitted around your idea and what your needs to do to it too. It impacts your and considers your own personal lives. For instance, if you are a teacher and a parent, and which many of our teachers are, and you have children at home, and you can't afford to leave or physically leave the home to actually attend a face-to-face conference. So an online webinar would be best for you. So this actually works in many different situations. Or maybe you're just a teacher who's looking for simple activities, reading activities or speaking activities, and you want to look under blogs or research papers to give you some ideas. This is going to be what's most practical for you. So self-directed PD does give a very high level of practicality for its users and for this development process. And of course, this leads to number 3, sustainable growth. Because you are choosing the topics and issues you want to look for and what you're interested in, this is going to help you keep motivated. Are you always going to be successful and find out the exact question and answer that you had? Maybe not. But the idea is that because you are doing this autonomously, you are choosing to be involved on it on your own accord, this is going to keep that motivation up for you. Maybe you weren't successful the first time, so you tweaked your ideas a little bit, you changed them, and you're looking for a different path. So this idea of self-directed PD is going to continue to keep you motivated. Even if it's not in the same direction you're looking for, it's still going to keep you active and keep you motivating as well. Now, the fourth one I really like, and I think it impacts a lot of PD, but I really like the way self-directed PD allows us a connectedness just to other people. Now, this can be to yourself and other colleagues. It can be other members and other grade levels in your school. But this connectedness can extend out your side of school to it too. And Chris mentioned this earlier in his first session, this active community, being part of it. Now, in Korea, we have a huge active online community for ELT. And we have a bunch of websites that connect open forum chats from teachers to teachers, teachers to parents, parents to parents. So this idea is keeping this active community open really allows you to get more information, different experiences, and sharing this aloud. And this is very, very strong and evident and clear with self-directed PD. And of course, all of this ends up and supports the idea of autonomous learning. You are controlling your pathway. Like we said, results do not always matter. It's the idea that you have control. You have this power to find, look for, and create this learning pathway for yourself too. So this is going to be our third question, our third poll. I'm going to ask everyone, which situation would motivate you towards self-directed professional development? Now, there are 5 different answers, and of course, there is another one. But if you have not started, or if you are interested in strengthening your self-directed PD journey, which of the 4 answers would you believe would motivate you the most? I'll give everyone a few moments to respond to this poll. Great. I can see that the polls are coming in and they are changing a little bit, but we can see all of our answers. You can see how everyone is feeling about their motivation towards self-directed PD itself. Maybe the services that they're looking for are not offered at the school, or maybe the service that you're looking for, maybe the PD program at your school is there, but maybe you're more selective, or maybe you want to find out some more details about it and it's not quite there yet. Or possibly you're just interested as an educator in specific ELT topics. And this is actually a very, very high motivation for many of our teachers. As you read more, as you learn more, you start realizing that there are more things out there for you to, get connected to. Your awareness, ironically, expands even wider as you are trying to be more aware of what is out there. And of course, professional development doesn't always have to be just the teaching in the classroom. This can actually help you with the career path that you've chosen. Maybe you want to increase your position at your school. Maybe you want to become an academic advisor, or maybe you want to go into teacher training, or maybe you're trying to satisfy a grad school program, getting those certificates in that course training to it too. So there are a lot of different reasons for us to be motivated for this. And it's good to know that we have this in our mind. And it's good to keep this with ourselves as we continue this journey. Now, I want to show you a small clip. This is an excerpt from our focus paper, that is our position paper, that is actually just focused on self-directed PD. Now, these are just 4 different areas of where professional development can be selected for either the school or for the individual. Now, our session today is not going to be focusing on the different types. You can see there are 4 main different types out there. Our focus is going to be, how can we get ourselves organized for this journey? So if you are interested, I know it's very, very hard to read here. We're going to give you the opportunity to download the position paper at the very end of our session. Or if you already have it, it's already included. And you can take a look at the different types. But what I want to focus on is how to get that framework started for us. For those who are not familiar with self-directed PD, where do we start? For those who are experienced, are there any steps that I missed? Are there any areas that I can strengthen and improve my journey and development? So I want to go into why a framework is actually needed. Now, like I said earlier, the self-directed PD journey does involve multiple steps, and that makes sense. But the idea is that the framework behind this keeps ourselves organized. It allows us to see, what have we completed? What is going to happen next? What do I need to take in between? Or maybe I can do some adjustments as well. So this framework is going to give us a way to organize our key steps of the process. But most importantly, the framework actually connects us with our needs, what I need to do versus our goals, and how I measure successful accomplishments. Am I able to tick this box off? Do I need to go back and make adjustments? Where did I go wrong in this process? How can I revise it, and how can I improve it to not only impact my results, but to reflect on my own goals, because our own goals can change and it can also be revised over and over again. So I do want to show you one possible framework that we are suggesting for us to follow. As you can see, there are 7 different steps and it's cyclical. The steps are very, very flexible. And even though the steps are flexible, and even though you may spend different amounts of time and effort on each individual step, we still want to make sure that we consider all the steps being done. It's like making a sandwich. If you want to make a sandwich, you can make your own style. You can have your vegan bread, your low gluten, or your wheat or white bread, or all of your ingredients. But the idea is that we still want to make sure that we follow the main structure of it. What you put in that sandwich is up to you, and you can put different amounts of it. But the idea is that please consider all the steps are being done, but you can adjust how the flow actually works. Now, what I want to do is we're going to take a closer look at all 7 of these steps. And a lot of times, even now, our teachers are very focused upon just that one activity or just that one PD exercise or method. Now, what I want to do is I want to show that there are leading steps or before steps before the actual activity itself that are crucially important. We have to make sure that we have the before steps set up to make sure that activity is, first of all, efficient for you, time efficient of your energy being used, and is it aligned to what your goals and your successful ideas are? Now, of course, afterwards, there are also going to be steps we're going to be looking at, and hopefully you can see that many of these steps have the idea of reflection, making sure that we complete the task, but now are we able to re-examine, evaluate, reflect upon it, what we did correctly, how this helps us, what we can use, what adjustments we can make? So we're going to be taking a closer look at all 7 of these steps together. Now, this is where I mentioned that PDF. This PDF that I asked everyone to download at the very beginning. If you have not downloaded it now, for those members who joined us late, there is a PDF in our handouts tab that you can download. Now, if you are able to download this while we're doing our session, that is great. But if you want to do this separately, that is also recommended as well. I just wanted to make sure that it is here for you to use later on. Now, let's go ahead and jump into our 7-step framework. Now, I'm going to break this down into 3 sections, and we're going to look at the before steps first. And this is going to be a majority of our time focused on, because I believe a lot of our teachers are so eager to find all of these PD activities, but they're not giving themselves the quality time to support why they're selecting it. So we want to make sure that we're looking at 3 different steps of identifying what needs to happen before our actual PD event or activity happens. Now, the very first step, I think, is a little bit harder for many of us. It's a little bit hard for me too, is reflecting on our current situation. And it's really taking an honest evaluation of yourself. Now, what does this mean? This honest evaluation comes from many different ways. First, it's going to be taking an evaluation of your professional development opportunities. What you want to do and what you actually can do is very, very different. I would love to attend all of the conferences that are held in London and in Germany and other areas too, in Mexico too. They have these great conferences, but I live in Korea. I can't afford to fly out there all the time. So this honest evaluation is going to really make sure to keep my opportunities realistic and practical. This is also going to help you identify any obstacles that you may have, and it's going to make you realize your strengths, weaknesses, and resources that are going to be available for you. Now, a great way for us to do this is doing a SWOT analysis. And possibly, if you are familiar with SWOT analysis, please share in the chat box. Yes, I'm familiar, or no, I'm not. I'm still going to walk you through this, but a SWOT analysis is a great way for us to reflect, especially for all of our language educators out there. And you can see what SWOT stands for. SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, Let's go through these and explain what they actually mean. Now, they sound very simple, but this is going to be not just your strengths as a teacher, but this is going to be including personal attitudes, your motivation, your current competences, your skills to help you achieve your goal. And it's not just your strengths as a teacher in the classroom, but your strengths as a teacher and as a learner of being a teacher. And this evaluation needs to be honest. If you know you have a short attention span, like I do, or if you know that, you know what, it's hard for me to read documents and sit down and read 3 or 4 pages. I prefer a video, or maybe it's the other way. I have a lot of time commuting from my work to my home, and having that time, I have a lot of time to read articles, follow up on blogs, and this is what's most comfortable for me, and this is my strength. So in this SWOT analysis, this strength is very important to really evaluate your personal attitudes, motivations, and skills that you are bringing to this journey itself. Now, with W, hopefully you can see that W for weaknesses is going to be the opposite. Now, this is not just going to be what you need support on, but a lot of this can actually be your mentality, your motivation levels, just even your commitment of being a teacher. This can also be impacting some of the aspects that could interfere with your goals or potentially be holding you back. So it's good to make sure you have a clear idea of both your strengths, but also your weaknesses as well. Now, with O, opportunities, this is where it's going to be a lot of teachers are going to be able to physically write things down of the chances, resources, or circumstances used to help you with your PD journey. Now, opportunities can be not just the available scheduling or finding different things or matching your own needs, but this can be the resources around you. What do I have available at my school? What do I have available by talking to my team members, my colleagues, or my team leader? What do I have available, and what do I know about using and searching online ELT materials through the internet? So this is going to be all the opportunities that are going to help you succeed with your small goals across your PD journey. Now, finally, the T in SWOT is going to be threats. These are going to be the obstacles or restrictions that hinder you from taking part of a professional development activity. Now, I like to think of this as more as a physical block. Maybe you work full time and your classes are 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Of course, the obstacle is I'm teaching all day. I can't have that time to attend online conferences throughout in the afternoons. Or maybe your obstacle is I have family issues and I need to be home certain times of the day. So this can hinder you or block you or be an obstacle of getting and obtaining that PD service or activity you are wanting. Now, what I am going to do is hopefully everyone has a clear understanding of what SWOT is. So in the next slide, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 4 different descriptions. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would like for you in the chat box to put down, is this a SWOT? Is this a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat? It's very simple. You can put like S, whatever, W, whatever. So let me show you the slide first. So this is our SWOT analysis. I have given you 4 different descriptions. Okay, they can be from 4 different people. But in the chat box, can you please tell me what you believe matches in our SWOT analysis? So you can put S1 or S4 or W1, W2. So in the chat box, everyone, I'll give everyone about a minute or so. Just go ahead and type in which letter matches the description of that educator. Great, Daniel. I can see it. Thank you, Jesse. Please, Daniel, make sure you put S and the number you believe it to be. Now, please do all of them. You can put W, O, T. Please go ahead and list all the letters and the numbers that you believe. Yes, Anna Georgelina has put the S, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and she's listed all of them for us. So please go ahead and take the time to fill in what you believe goes into these boxes. Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Marina. I'll give everyone a few moments. Great, great. Love the responses. I love the energy in our chat box. So many great responses. So please go ahead and keep them in, keep them coming. I'll give you guys 30 more seconds before I show everyone our answers. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and show everyone our answers. If you did want to keep getting your answers in, please go ahead. So for our 4 descriptors, these are going to be what the SWOT analysis is going to be. The first one says 10 years experience working with young ELT learners, public and private sector. This is what the strength of the teacher is bringing in. Let's look at number 2. Access to online ELT community and coworker workshops at school. This would be following opportunities. This is going to describing what is available resource and human resources connecting to this teacher's opportunities to help their PD journey. Number 3, unavailable on weekends. This is definitely a threat. Now, some teachers may get this confused with weaknesses, but like we said earlier, threat is going to be some type of outside stimuli or some type of blocking. Now, just because you're not available on weekends does not mean this is a weakness. You have other priorities. As teachers, we have other lives, we have family commitments, and that's fine. But this does cause an obstacle in your PD journey. And number 4, self-taught educator who is unclear about pedagogy versus application. This is definitely a weakness. Now, like I said earlier, I don't want you to think weaknesses are things that are going to be forever weaknesses. Please, I am not saying that. They are just the current skills that you need more support with. You can always strengthen these areas. You can always change them too. But once again, comparing a strength to weakness, this is going to be areas of focus. So for those teachers who got 100% answer, big round of applause for you guys. That's great to see that we are aware of the SWOT analysis. Now, like we said earlier, the SWOT analysis is not rigid categories. It's just to make sure for us to assess and take stock of what we're starting off as. And this is going to definitely help create and personalize our PD plans. Like we said earlier, this evaluation is important, and this evaluation is individual and personal. So please keep that in mind. This is a major step of reflection of our current situation. Now that we've moved on from our evaluation and reflection of our current situation, this is where we're going to be able to now identify our goals and purposes. Like I said earlier, the 3 beginning steps in the before are very, very important in many areas that teachers don't often take the correct amount of time with. So identifying your goals is very, very important. Now, this can be split up in different ways, but the 4 areas that we want to focus on are areas you wish to explore, goals you wish to achieve, focusing on your own teacher skills and competences, and also focusing on topics that interest you, not just for your job and for your career, but what interests you about ELT? What interests you about teaching? Now, like I mentioned earlier, this can be done in 2 different ways. One can be setting your goals for a specific PD activity. For instance, like in this session for ELTOC, you can have a goal for this block, but you can also look at the goals as a holistic view of your whole PD program and plan for yourself to it too. So you can see that both of these skills can be done for the larger picture or an individual activity. Now, what we can actually do is how to help this identifying goal and purposes. We can look at this in 4 different ways. The first 2 is looking at the awareness, just being aware of the aspects of teacher competences, looking at your attitudes, your skills, and knowledge. It's not just about what information you're collecting, but how do you feel about this? Is the effort you're putting in worth it? What areas do you need to put more effort into? And this actually goes into your attitudes, how we think about any aspect of our professional lives. Do you think classroom management is more important than student management? Do you think learning about the most trendiest hot topic issues is going to be beneficial for you and your classroom, or do you want to stick with the core 4 skills values? This then goes into focusing on knowledge. What do we know as a teacher? Now, this is not just the language of English, but as a teacher about our learners. What do we know about our learners? What do we know about teaching in general? All of this is going to be able to impact the exact ideas and targets you want to look for improving our skills. What are our observable actions? What are our behaviors in the classroom, outside the classroom, working with others, collecting information? Now, with all 4 of these are all just areas that we can consider, and a lot of these can generate other ideas and different topics to it too. But we also want to make sure that we are focusing on topics that interest you as a teacher personally. This can be about yourself as a teacher or focusing more about learners. This could be talking about different pedagogies or aspects about the English language teaching environment, or this can go into more of the physical part. What are the tools of teaching that I want to learn about? Or maybe I know about these great tools. I know how to use digital whiteboards or classroom presentation tools, but how can I get better actually applying these digital ideas into my classroom? So you can see that this framework and identifying your goals is actually very, very broad. And it's good for us to really focus on this and see how we can actually take these ideas and in shaping our action plan in the future steps. Now let's go on to our 3rd step. Our 3rd step is actually going to be selecting the PD option itself. Now that you have your situation, your SWOT analysis, you've targeted small range, large range, short steps, and future goals, it's now to actually select your PD option. What activity is going to be best for you? And there are going to be other areas that you need to consider. Purpose. What are you doing this for? What are my resources availability for me? How autonomous am I allowed to be? Am I able to participate this in as much as I want? Or is this more of a lecture listening? Am I able to share ideas? Am I able to connect with other people? And also, what level of enjoyment am I receiving from this? Now, this is a very, very simple spreadsheet. I don't like using that word, but it's actually a very, very easy way of showing your analysis of this. And this is actually part of our position paper. It's actually part of there. So you can actually use this to really see and evaluate the purpose, the resources, the autonomy, the engagement, all of this. So I actually have a full chart of this at home, and I plug in reading my PD activity. I'm going to choose reading a blog, and I'll put purpose, resource, autonomy, enjoyment, and I'll put my numbers in there and see a final score. You can do this as a brainstorm and then go back and choose what PD activity is best for you. Now, once again, this can always change. After your experience, maybe you realize, oh, reading research papers actually is better for me. It does fit my purpose. It does fit my resources and my scheduling timing much better. So this is always there for you. But the idea is this helps us create a physical chart for us to organize our ideas, and it evaluates why we're choosing this in future usage too. Now, as I said earlier, these are just different options that OUP provides. Our professional development team at OUP has a wide range of content that we create. There are also areas and events that we work with outside editors, researchers, professional experts. And as you can see, all of these bullet points that I mentioned have different backgrounds, different resources available, and different purposes of why teachers want to connect through PD in their own way. And you can see that we do have a large range of actions. These are not they're not all limited to this. We have more than this, but the idea is that there is something out there for you. As long as you are able to understand your purpose and goals, it will help you allow you to select the PD journey itself. Now, as you can see, we've taken most of our time to look at the before steps and also looking at our activities. Now, I'm also going to continue on with the next steps, but it's going to be a little bit similar in the fact because it's a lot of reflection based upon our teacher's ideas. But before we go to reflection, I want to focus on the self-directed PD activity itself. Now, this is step number 4, participating in the activity. Now, this is the actual time you are participating in. It's the time right now. Either it's a single event or a long-term process. You're going to see how you can monitor yourself and how you're going to be able to connect with the information, see if it's going to help you with your goals you set or help you adjust your goals in the future. Was there something learned in this event that you want to change in the future, or is there something else that you want to learn more about? And a lot of teachers always ask this question to me: what can I do to get most out of our PD activity? And this actually means the physical time we are in the event itself. And to be honest, a lot of the activity tips that I do, it really supports giving yourself the proper opportunity to enjoy and to get most of the event itself. The first one is make sure the environment is productive, making sure that you are focusing on the event, and this goes with the time allocation. If you chose to participate in an ELTOC session, or you chose to read a blog online, or to have a meeting with your teacher or fellow colleague, give yourself the proper time and energy dedicated for that time. Having the TV in the background, multi-purposing, and sometimes it's good to have this to hear in the background if you're cooking or preparing something. But if you want to get that full value, go in and give yourself, be fair yourself, and give yourself the opportunity to really be absorbed into that. Be active in participation. Use that chat box. Give some online responses. Take notes, either online, digitally, or if you have notes on your laptop. I am a paper pencil person, so I like to take notes by hand. But the idea is all of these steps is going to allow you to make and really take that time as more value. It really allows that potential activity, that event to really come into fruition. Making connections, speaking with other people in the chat boxes. Don't limit yourself. Don't hurt yourself. You've already made a decision to be a part of that activity. So really be involved in it. Now, moving to our continuous steps after you've continued and completed our activity, we're going to be looking at how you can reflect and actually apply this. Now, reflection is going to come in through many different ways, and you're going to see this reflection part pop up twice. But after your activity, give yourself the time to really reflect upon what happened. And this can happen through discussion. Get involved with other people, either online, in a chat room, in an online community, or the easiest way is grabbing a friend of yours, grabbing a colleague. Expand and challenge yourself with your own thinking. It's going to allow this discussion to allow different opportunities and variations to come through. We're also going to allow yourself to create different independent activities based upon the PD activity you just attended. Now, once again, it's best to do this fairly quick after your PD activity, but if you took good notes, you can always come back afterwards. And it really allows you to have a discussion of what works, what doesn't work, what points work for your classroom, what wouldn't work, or what adjustments that you can actually make. Now, the most important part is trying to get this to be applied in your classroom. That is what we're doing this for. We're doing this for our learners. So how are we using this knowledge and applying it to the classroom itself? Now, this is going to be step 6, trying it out in class, putting it into practice. It's not just putting your idea and experimenting the new ideas in the classroom, but also evaluating, make adjustments as you see fit. Maybe this worked well for your Monday, Wednesday class, but didn't work really well for your Tuesday, Thursday class. Maybe it works better with younger learners or older learners. But the idea is that now that you're putting this into practice, you have to make sure to evaluate and see observations and to see the learner reactions. And the idea is that this is going to help improve that learning environment, give students different opportunities to absorb the content, and it's going to improve this learning setting itself. Now, as we are doing this in practice, it's also very, very important. And I believe some of our teachers have mentioned this. Gloria teachers has just mentioned this, adding a notebook, taking notes on this. But we also want to make sure that we're focusing on our learner needs. Like we said earlier, we may have all these great ideas, but we have to make sure that the learners are able to handle it. Maybe the resources aren't available in your classroom, or maybe it's too complex or too simple for your learners to understand. So how can we make adjustments? And the most important part is tracking progress. And this is something that I keep going back to Chris Farrell's session, but he says something about keeping a data bank about your own ideas. Sometimes you may be by yourself at your school or at your learning academy, or maybe you're just a freelance teacher and don't have as much face-to-face time with other teachers. So you have to keep track of what's worked, what didn't work, how you evaluated this. And if you have this running brainstorm list, you can always go back and pull from it. It's like your teacher's toolbox, and it's going to allow you to revisit the ideas that worked for you, but also adjust ideas that maybe were not as successful. And keeping this journal log, and there are a lot of different ways that we can do this, is very important for this sixth step. Now, finally, with our last step, this is going to be that repetition of trying it again, reflection, trying it again, reflection. But the idea now as seventh step is learn through your experience and gain new insight. Meaning, is there ongoing information or more specific practices you now need to research more? Is it better for you to handle this discussion by yourself or with others? How can you be involved more in the community itself? And it really allows you to evaluate your whole PD journey itself, or that one step. So you can see there are a lot of different ways that we can actually change these types of frameworks to work for an individual setting or a long-term wider goal, or even both. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different ways that we can do this. And like I said earlier, we're going to give you the opportunity to download our position paper, but this is just one example that is involved in that position paper. It allows you to actually organize your ideas and take track of it. And please take a look at it later on when you have more time with a clearer viewing. Now, hopefully you can see that we were able to focus on the 7-step framework. Like we said earlier, it is cyclical. It is flexible. You can repeat as many times as you needed, and it's recommended to do all the parts to selectively to have that full experience itself to it too. But once again, it's all based upon your individual needs and goals. Now, as we're moving forward, like we said earlier, in steps 5, 6, and 7, reflection is very, very important. Now, you don't have to answer these in the chat box, but the idea is after our session today, take a look at these 3 questions and ask them to yourself. From our time and experience together, are you able to feel more confident? Earlier I asked, for those who are not sure about self-directed PD and who didn't know about it, can you explain this to a colleague now? Are you able to look at the 7-step framework and see structure is important? How does this provide help on my own personal professional development journey? And which steps do you believe you need more support with? We are all learning. This is why it's called professional development. It's not professional product. We are all developing together, and this journey can be done with support, with outside resources, with our own communities. But it's important that we understand that this journey is an ongoing journey, and there's a lot of support and truthful evaluation needs to be done. So as you can see, I do want to finish our session off before we get to some questions that self-directed journey is a never one-size-fits-all approach. And with each professional teacher out there, each school, educational purpose, culture is going to make this journey different for you. So it's going to be important that we selectively choose our journey. But the idea is it is possible. Teachers are able to take this self-directed journey themselves and will have much more control and power to help themselves as a professional. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a pop-up. This is our position paper on professional development journey. You can go ahead and download it now or afterwards to it too. There'll be a link in our chat box. And I also want to remind that we do have some professional development modules and other services through OUP. And I also want to include at this time that we do have our Oxford Teachers Club. This is going to help you with obtaining all of our information from OUP. It's very, very simple. All you got to do is click in, register with your email address, and everything is going to be available for you. Most of it is downloadable. It's all free to access. So please make sure you take advantage of the OTC or the Oxford Teachers Club too. Now, at this time, I do want to go over a few questions. I know we're a little bit short on time, but I do want to go over a couple of questions that we did have within our session. So give me a few moments to go over some questions together. Now, the first question we hear from that I'm reading right now is from Fernando. It says, how can the institution where the teacher works promote self-directed PD? Now, this is kind of a broad question in the fact that self-directed PD, it's at the same time part from the institution because it is PD, but also separate. Now, the idea behind true self-directed PD is that it's going to be based upon the individual. But the schools can also promote this as well. They can promote it through suggesting team working, building groups, not just having set directives or sessions of must attend workshops, but having the opportunity. If you're an academic advisor, maybe you can set up every second Friday of the month as a team building workshop. If you're welcome, anyone's welcome to join. It's not mandatory. You can help each other with lesson planning, student management, classroom management. But as a school, they can actually promote this by giving more options to the teachers, giving them more freedom to choose, and just providing the resources like a classroom, an empty classroom, giving them some resources they may have collected from OUP or from other professional development resources to it too. But the option is giving them more self-autonomy and choice and freedom behind it. So hopefully that answers that question of how institutions can help promote self-directed PD. Now, another question is from Matilda. She asks, if there is self-directed PD, can there be peer-directed PD? This is also a great question. And in my opinion, I believe peer-directed PD can fall into a form of self-directed PD. If two teachers are interested in promoting and doing peer evaluations, peer reviews, this is initiation that they can start enjoying together. So yes, I agree. My answer is yes. Peer-directed professional development can happen. I believe it's part of professional development. And if your school allows this or gives you time to do after your classrooms, or if there is a break between someone's scheduling, you are able to have an outside visitor. So peer-directed PD is a great option, and it's a great way of adjusting PD to fit two different people's needs or a group or small group needs to it too. Excellent question. Now, there is another question that says, are there reasons for teachers not doing self-directed PD, similar to why some students are not ready to become self-directed learners? And I believe this is also a broad question, and I believe it falls upon personal motivation and what you're looking for as an educator. There are many different reasons why teachers become teachers, and though I want to say everyone is motivated by the pure enjoyment of helping others and seeing that growth within learners, some teachers approach teaching professionally just as a job, and that is completely fine. They clock in, 9 to 5, they do their activities, they get feedback, they improve when they need to, but they also feel like that this is what is required of them. Maybe they have different passions in different areas. So that part I can't fully answer for you. And there's also different reasons of commitment. Maybe you are a teacher now, but you want to go into teaching as a university professor, or this is only one stage of your master's degree or your doctorate. So maybe teaching in the classroom is just a temporary thing, but you're moving something forward later on. So once again, the background is going to be very, very different. So this is going to be the reason why that setting your goals and reflections is very, very important. Now, I do understand we are over time. Thank you, Josh. I do want to say thank you for everyone attending. I do want to say once again, thank you for your energy. The chat box was great. I do apologize not getting to everyone's questions, but I do want to say thank you. Please enjoy the rest of the conference, and I'll hand it back over to you, Josh. Thank you, everyone.